I never imagined a simple dinner invite would lead to one of the most emotionally complicated decisions of my life. My name's Amanda, and if someone had told me a year ago that I'd be caught in the middle of my best friend's biggest request, I would have laughed it off as ridiculous. But life has a way of surprising us, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. It started on a Friday evening. I was lounging in sweatpants, curled up on my couch, trying to decompress from the chaos of work. My phone buzzed and I saw a message from my best friend, Rachel. "Hey, Derek and I are having dinner at her place tonight. You free?" I hadn't seen her in a few weeks, and the thought of warm food and better company than the Netflix reruns I was binging felt too good to pass up. I texted back a simple, "I'm in. What time?" By 7, I was ringing their doorbell, holding a bottle of wine I grabbed on the way. Rachel opened the door with her usual bright smile. Her blonde hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, and she wore a cozy sweater that matched the autumn evening. Darragh waved from the kitchen, a dish towel slung over his shoulder. "Hey, Amanda, come in." "You look amazing," Rachel greeted me with a hug. I stepped inside, soaking in the familiar warmth of their home. Everything smelled like roasted herbs and butter, and the soft jazz playing in the background made it feel almost romantic, if I weren't the third wheel, of course. We sat down to eat, and as always, the conversation was easy. We talked about work, travel plans, and old college memories. The wine flowed steadily, and somewhere between the main course and dessert, I noticed both Rachel and Derek exchanging glances. It wasn't suspicious exactly, just loaded, like they were working up to something. Finally, as I was finishing my slice of cheesecake, Rachel cleared her throat. "So, we actually invited you over tonight for more than just dinner," she said, her eyes locking with mine. I blinked. "Okay, now I'm nervous. What's going on?" Derek put his fork down and leaned forward slightly. "We've been thinking about something for a while now, and we both agreed that if we were going to bring it up to anyone, it would be you." Rachel reached for my hand. "You know how long we've been trying to have a baby?" I nodded slowly. "Of course. You've been so open about the process." She sighed. "We've been through every option. IVF, adoption applications. Nothing has worked out. It's been heartbreaking, honestly. But then we started talking about another possibility, one that kept circling back to you." There was a pause. Derek picked up where she left off. "We know this is a huge ask, and you can absolutely say no. But we were wondering if you'd consider being a surrogate for us." The room went quiet, like all the air had been sucked out. I stared at them, completely caught off guard. "You want me to carry your baby?" Rachel's eyes welled up. "You've always been like family. You're healthy, kind, responsible. We trust you more than anyone." I sat back in my chair, the weight of their request settling in. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I loved them both dearly. On the other hand, carrying someone else's child, that wasn't a light decision. The rest of the night was a blur. We talked for hours. They answered every question I had, promised there'd be legal agreements, doctors involved, therapy if needed. They weren't asking for a favor. They were asking me to help them build their family. That was something deeper, more sacred. I went home that night, my heart heavy with conflicting emotions. I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing the child, the life I might help bring into the world. Was it too much to take on? Would it affect our friendship? Over the next few weeks, I kept in touch with Rachel and Derek, but I didn't give them a clear answer. I needed time to think. I also did my own research on surrogacy, the emotional toll, the legal process. I even met with a therapist to unpack everything. What really helped me decide was something Rachel said in a voicemail one night. "I understand if you can't do it, Amanda, but just knowing we could even ask you means the world to us. You've already given us more hope than we've had in years." I cried listening to that message. It wasn't just about biology or legality. It was about love, connection, and being there for people who had been there for me through every season of my life. So one Sunday morning, I invited them over to my apartment. I made coffee, we sat around the table, and I finally said the words they had been hoping to hear. "I'll do it. I'll be your surrogate." Rachel broke down in tears. Derek hugged me tighter than he ever had. That moment sealed something between us forever. We weren't just friends anymore. We were family. The process that followed wasn't easy. There were medical tests, consultations, and waiting periods. I started hormonal treatments to prepare my body. There were days I felt sick, moody, even scared. But every time I saw the joy in Rachel's eyes or the gratitude in Derek's voice, I knew I was doing something meaningful. When the embryo transfer finally happened, we all held hands in the clinic room. Rachel whispered, "No matter what happens, we're so grateful." That was the moment I truly felt part of something bigger than myself. Weeks passed, then one morning I took a pregnancy test at home. Positive. I called Rachel immediately. She answered on the first ring. "I'm pregnant," I said through tears. She screamed. Derek grabbed the phone and shouted, "Are you serious?" We were all crying, laughing, shaking. The next 9 months were a journey. They came with me to every appointment. We chose names together. They even painted the nursery while I sat on the couch eating ice cream and shouting color suggestions. We shared everything: joy, anxiety, sleepless nights, heartburn complaints. I never felt alone. The day I went into labor, they rushed to the hospital. Rachel held my hand the entire time. When the baby was born, it was Rachel who cut the cord, tears streaming down her face. They named her Grace. As I held her in my arms, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She wasn't mine, but in a way, she always would be. I gave her life, but Rachel and Derek would give her the world. After I was discharged, they moved into a nearby Airbnb to stay close while I recovered. We had dinners together, took turns feeding Grace, and laughed at how sleep-deprived we all were. There was no awkwardness, only love. People often ask me if I regret it, if it was strange giving up a child I carried for 9 months. My answer is always the same. I didn't give her up. I gave her over to 2 people who had more love to give than most, to a home that had waited years for her. I didn't lose anything. I gained family. Life moved forward. I went back to work. Rachel and Derek settled into life as new parents. We still see each other regularly. Holidays, birthdays, random Tuesday night dinners. And every time I see Grace, she smiles like she knows me, like she remembers our heartbeat rhythm from those early months. This story isn't about sacrifice. It's about connection, about love that looks different than what we're used to seeing. It's about trusting the people that matter most with the most delicate parts of your life and finding something beautiful on the other side. So when people say, "You won't believe what my friend's husband and she asks me," I smile because I do believe. I lived through it.